A couple of days ago, I got a fantastic question asking me to do a video on how long it took me before I started seeing progress in my weight loss and running journey, and how long can they expect before they start seeing the same progress. That second question is kind of difficult for me to answer because it will depend on your own athletic background, your current level of fitness, your genetics. A bunch of different things will play into how fast you'll see progress, but I can answer the question how long it took me to start seeing progress. But I want you to know that if you're not seeing progress as fast as I did, or if you're seeing it faster than I did, kudos to you. But if you're not seeing it as fast as I did, don't take that as you're doing something wrong. Just keep with it, trust your process, and I promise if you're putting in the work and doing all the right things, you're gonna see the progress. It might just take a little bit longer, but these changes that we're making right now aren't meant to be short-term changes. They are for the long haul, so if it takes an additional 6 months, that's small in the grand scheme of things. But with that out of the way, let's talk about how long it took me to start seeing progress. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Brendon, and if you're new here, you might not know my background. So I started running when I was about 312 pounds. I sit now between 160 and 170. So what's that? Like about 150 pounds lost just from running alone. And I make videos here on YouTube all about running shoe reviews, running while overweight, starting running as a beginner, all that good stuff. So if that's something you're into, consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you get some value out of this video, consider hitting the like button. Helps out the channel a ton. All right, let's get into it. So like I said, when I started my journey, I was 312 pounds. I started my journey in the dead of winter in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and the winters there are brutal. It was like minus 40 degrees Celsius. I'll put it in Fahrenheit right here, but I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and we tend to have pretty mild winters. So when I started, it was extremely cold, but I got out that door. I don't know how I got out that door, but I did. But I remember those first few runs, I could maybe run for 10 seconds at a time, if that. I remember vividly coming home from my runs, my lungs just completely on fire. I spent the next few hours wheezing. It was terrible. And that happened for a long time. Like, I think by the time that I was able to not wheeze after a run, it was probably 2 months. 2 months of consistent running before I was able to finish a run without feeling wheezy and all that stuff. But during those couple of months, I did notice improvements week after week. Each week, it was a little bit easier for me to get out the door. I was feeling a little bit more confident and all that stuff. But that wasn't without setbacks. Keep in mind, I was just starting on a healthy lifestyle and running journey, so of course, I still had those bad habits. Those bad habits piqued those peering eyes and really just pulled me back into that way of life. Now, get this story. This is one of the most pivotal moments, I think, during that time that I really felt I was failing. So I was there during the Ottawa Senators and Montreal Canadiens playoff series. I've never been to an NHL game, so I bought myself some tickets. So I went to this game alone, and when I got there, I was having a few drinks, having a great time. And by a few drinks, I probably had 10 throughout the night. But that was a great time. Montreal ended up winning. They were my team. Maybe not the best thing to be a Canadiens fan at a Senators game in a playoff series. But hey, that's fine. It was fun. But after the game, I couldn't get a taxi. Every taxi I asked to take me, because I was only a one person and my drive was so close, they didn't want to waste their time taking me. So what I ended up having to do was going to the bar inside the Canadian Tire Center, which is where the game was held. So they had a little bar there, and I was having a few drinks just sitting at the bar alone. And actually, I ended up making friends with the guy beside me, guy on the other side of me. It ended up being a really fun time. But anyway, after a few hours, taxis still wouldn't take me home. So it was either me just sleep on these concrete steps of the Canadian Tire Center or walk home. So I ended up walking home. And during this hour-long walk, I don't know how I made it. And I was walking up to this McDonald's and I was really craving a McGangbang. It's not what you think. It's an actual McDonald's menu item. Next time you're there, order it. They might look at you funny or they might hand you this deliciousness. But anyway, so I ordered like 5 of those, ordered a bunch of chicken nuggets, ordered a bunch of fries, took a bunch of honey, just had a great time. That ended up being $50 worth of McDonald's. So I took that home and I was just devouring it. You know, when you're really just having a couple drinks and you love that little late night snack of just pure grease and fat. That was me, just utterly disgusting now that I think back on it. But at the time, it was fantastic. But the next morning, I woke up, I looked around, there was just a graveyard of McDonald's wrappers, half-eaten chicken nuggets in the bed, just a total mess. Just a total and absolute mess. And that is one of the most vivid setbacks because I felt like garbage for that whole week. I almost quit doing my healthy journey and running journey during that week just because I felt so terrible and I was falling out of the healthy habits that I was starting to build. But I didn't. I just pushed forward and kept trusting the process that it would get better. And sure enough, it did get better. But it took a while. So yes, you will have setbacks. I definitely had setbacks, more than just that one, but that is the most vivid setback. And I hope that gets the point across that you're gonna have slip-ups, but it doesn't matter. You just need to get back on the wagon immediately. Don't wait for that next Monday. Don't wait for 2 weeks from that day. Do it immediately the day after, get back on the wagon. And if you mess up for one meal, don't ruin the whole day. That was something I fell into a lot, where I'd eat a bad meal at lunch and then just continue the trend in the evening, and then that continued on to the next day and the next day, and I never ended up getting back on the wagon. But I found that once I had a bad meal, I could just kind of throw that away and say, hey, you messed up, get back on the wagon for the next meal, live a better and healthier life through that same day. And eventually, those habits became ingrained, and now it's just second nature today, but it took a lot of time. So I continued pushing on, and about 6 months after the time that I started, I was down to about 240 pounds, so roughly 60, 70 pounds, and I was able to run for probably 20 to 25 minutes straight. Now that might not seem like a whole lot of progress within 6 months. Like, there's diets that you can lose 60 pounds in 2 months, like that's insane. But the reality with those diets are, it's just a quick fix and you're not gonna be able to keep that off. I'm sorry, like if someone has lost that weight fast and kept it off, kudos to you, but the majority of people aren't gonna be able to keep that off and maintain a healthy lifestyle for the long haul. So the way that I viewed it is, although it took 6 months to make that progress, this is lasting change. It's not gonna be a quick 6 months to a year, 2-year type journey. No, this was meant to be a total lifestyle change. So 6 months in the grand scheme of things, peanuts, absolute peanuts. And of course I wasn't down to my goal weight at that time, but what I was doing was working. So why not just keep with it and trust the process that it will continue to go down. I will eventually hit where my body wants to be. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at right now. My body likes to hover between 160 and 170, and I can maintain this weight without feeling like I'm depriving myself or any of that stuff. So it took about 6 months to see a lot of meaningful change. But that doesn't mean that I didn't see a bunch of change pretty quickly once I first started. Like I said, I was starting to feel better on my runs each and every week. I was feeling more confident, which is kind of what you want. And I was getting faster, but more importantly, I was feeling better out there on my runs. The runs didn't hurt as much, and I wasn't going home and wheezing myself to death. I was able to go out there and enjoy the runs, have a great time, enjoy the sun, enjoy the birds singing, that type of stuff. That's what was more important to me than getting faster. I think this is an important point. I said that I maintained between 160 and 170 without depriving myself completely. And the reason that that's so important is because you don't want to live your life not having things that you enjoy. Like, I still have chocolate bars, I still have brownies, I still have all this good stuff, but I don't go crazy on it. I'm able to go have this stuff and have a couple rather than the entire pan or the entire bar. We want to be able to teach our brains to be able to have a little bit of restraint and just enjoy those things in moderation. So to answer the question, I started seeing little changes after the first week, and each week after that, and then each week after that, and each month after that. And it didn't really feel like I was making a whole lot of progress, but when I looked back on where I started to where I was a year from that point, I realized how much these small changes added up to a freaking mountain. I was then, after a year, able to run 5 kilometers without stopping. Asked me to do that a year before that point, and you heard I started wheezing after 10 seconds, so you can only imagine what would happen after 5K. So that's what we kind of have to put in perspective. These little changes that we're making will add up to bigger things over time, and it's so important that you trust your process. If you're eating well, if you're exercising consistently, it doesn't have to be running at all. Like, I ran for 10 seconds and then I walked for 5 minutes. That is totally fine. If you want to do biking, if you want to do swimming, whatever it is, just do that stuff consistently, eat well. That's all I did. I didn't track my food. I didn't track calories. I didn't do any of that stuff because that was an additional level, an additional hassle that I would easily just throw it on a day that I didn't feel like doing it, because that's just how I am. If I find something too tedious, I'm very likely just gonna drop it. So I didn't even do that. And here I am 5 years later, and these changes have added up to incredible things. I've done multiple half Ironmans. I run 5K pretty much every day. I can do so much more than I ever thought possible, and it was through these little incremental changes that added up to a freaking mountain. That's what we want, people. Keep making those small changes, and I promise you will be able to reach things that you never really thought were even within the realm of possibility for yourself. And that goes for everything. It doesn't have to just be weight loss. It can be your job. It can be whatever. But this is just turning into a rant now. So folks, I hope you got some value out of this video. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section down below. If you want me to do any different types of videos, leave them in the comment section down below. I value your opinion so much. Thank you all so much for the support, and I will catch you on the next one.